toggle switches here. You've got the same 3 back there on the generator itself. So to start it up, just hold the on button down for about 5 seconds, then hold the start button down for 2 seconds. Let up the start button while holding down the on button. Once it's running smoothly, just let off the on button. As all this on button does, it's just an electric fuel pump. I mean, if you hold it down, you can hear the pump back there priming the line. So it's just pumping the fuel through before you're cranking it over. The same thing with this switch and your shore power. Make sure that it's turned off here before you're disconnecting power there. Does that make sense? Or reconnecting. Same thing with the generator. Make sure that it's off first. You don't want to start the generator with it switched to generator. Otherwise it's pulling a big load. You know what I mean? It's kind of like starting your car in first gear or something like that. So just make sure that it's off. Yeah. You're not on the generator when you start it. So also too with the generator, it shouldn't be run while the boat's moving. So do I think that the water pump could pick up enough water? Yeah, but if you're cruising along pretty good, it isn't like there's anything down in the water. You know what I mean? It's not getting enough water pulling it through there. So shut it off. Obviously just hold the stop button down. While we're here though, let's talk a little bit about running the generator. This is probably the biggest issue that everybody has with the boat, is the batteries are dead. And I'll get, you know, probably a dozen calls every season. The batteries are dead. What's going on? This isn't charging right. Blah, blah, you know, different things like that. Every time that we're here, we run the boat run the generator 4 to 5 hours a day. And have we ever had a problem with not having enough power? We've never had an issue. So if your batteries are dead, it's kind of like if your gas tank's empty, what are you going to do? You're going to fill it back up. It's the same thing with the batteries. So just make sure that when you charge it back up, and we put this little just tags here just so people understand how that works, but when you charge, it will start out with the bulk charging, and it will be charging a ton of amps at first. So when you first start running the generator, I think is what is happening is maybe we're saying run the generator for 4 hours a day, and maybe everybody's running it for an hour at a time, 4 different times, or 30 minutes a time, you know, 12 times a day or something like that. It's better for the batteries, if they're low, to just start charging them back up and just let it run for a long time and charge them up until they're charged. A good way we can do that though is take a look right here. This right now, because we're on shore power, it'll tell you we're at 13.4 volts and we're using 3 amps. So watch this right here. Anytime you're down below 11.7 volts is when you need to turn. Anytime you're down below 12 volts, it'll run at 12 volts for a long time, and even 11.9, 11.8 for a long time. I mean, that's where the bulk of your battery power is in that zone. But when it gets down below 11.7, 11.6, 11.5, you're working the bottom part of those batteries. So when you see that, you should just think, okay, we're getting low on juice. We need to turn the system on, let it run, let it charge. So it will go through the bulk charging. It will charge between 160 and 120 amps. Then it will move up to absorb charging. It charges from 120 to 80 amps. Then it will go to float charging, which is what we're on right now, because what that does, it's just like the boat floating. It'll basically come up to 80% and then move between full charge and 80%, charging that last bit. And it conditions the batteries by doing it that way, rather than just charging it full and keeping it full, because it wants to move it back and forth. And then the equal charging is about the same thing. It will say full charge when it's fully charged and you're not using any batteries. So you don't want to run the generator until it says full charge on this, most of the time when it says full charge, it will be when it's here in the slip and it's been here for a while without using any power. So if we run the generator till it comes up to float charging and it's there for a good chunk of time, I mean maybe 30 minutes, an hour, you're going to be fully charged. You're going to be to 90-95% on the battery power. So, any questions there? Is that too much information?
No.
Okay.
The only problems we've had with batteries going down are the engine batteries. And I think they're not hooked to the water pumps anymore. Is that right?
They're not. Yeah, they're on their own DC system now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just the
It was
engines.
the port side, I think, that had